Biagi. She had watery eyes. Stated she smoked a joint around 2 a.m. First thing that he really noticed, other than the odor, was the lack of convergence. Now, I'm going to start highlighting certain points here in yellow, and that's because these are indicators of recent marijuana use, as well as impairment, okay? Her mouth is dry, there's a green film, the heat bumps. She states that she does smoke marijuana. She smokes a hybrid blend of sativa and indica, and you actually heard testimony that those strains of marijuana, the sativa can present as a stimulant, and the indica can present as a depressant. That's important because that's what we have in this case. We have some signs of both going on when you look at the clinical indicators of Ms. Jimenez that night. So the marijuana containers in the car, as well as the pipe, it's apparent that there was at least the pipe and empty containers in the car. She said she was driving for DoorDash. She was stopping at the Del Taco, and then she was on her way to pick up the DoorDash order, which I believe Officer Biagi said was barbecue. Now, this was interesting because when you put it next to the testimony, I believe, of Ms. Meneses, our criminalist, yesterday, she was talking about how complex driving can be. In fact, one of the most complex things that most of us do. And she even said, one of the things, because your brain's operating on different levels, is trying to figure out where you're going. You know, where are you? What is your destination? And that's why all these other distractions are happening. The driver has to potentially react. And so it's important to understand the complexities in the mind that go on, especially that night when Ms. Jimenez was impaired. So Officer Biagi starts his FSTs. Again, she starts early. Ms. Jimenez is having difficulty following the instructions. He has to tell her repeatedly on several different tests. He notes the eye tremors. She needed clarification on the walk-in turn. Again, difficulty following the instructions around her. She missed the heel to toe. She didn't maintain her starting position, but this is the point where she says that she had an ankle and knee problem. Okay? Remember, she didn't say that the first time during the pre-FST questions, but when she actually started the test, she referenced that. That's why I left them white. Okay? Give her the benefit of the doubt for this. Goes on to the one-legged stand. Again, she's having issues during the instruction. She ends up putting her foot down. She restarts her count wrong. So I believe she counted to 9, or I believe it was 9 or 10. Anyway, then she drops down and then starts counting again from a lower number. Okay? This is important because it's evidence that she's having difficulty dividing her attention, not just physically, but mentally. And that's where the impairment first starts. Again, she didn't follow instructions on the finger to nose. She held her, it's clear in the video, see it, she holds her finger to her nose and then she leaves it there, she opens her eyes. And Officer Biagi has to tell her, hey, put your hand back down. And then she does it a second time. And then she also missed below the nose on touches 3 through 6. And as Biagi stated, it wasn't way off, but it was just directly below the tip of her nose where she was instructed to touch. She has a high pulse, 100 beats per minute. She's arrested based on the totality of the circumstances as they were presented to Officer Biagi. Okay? He formed the opinion that the defendant was unable to safely operate a motor vehicle, that she was under the influence of a drug. He didn't say what drug, he just said he thought that she was under the influence. Then we get on to Officer Hume. He's got 14 years of experience, works as a motor officer for Newport Beach Police Department. He also has extensive training and experience involving DUI and DUID investigations. Actually, he presented as having, I believe, even more experience than Officer Biagi. He's DRE certified. He maintains his certification. He explained to you yesterday that he actually has to keep a certain ratio of correct arrests for arrests that he makes for DUID. He's also a DRE instructor, meaning he trains other people how to do it. Been involved in over 10,000 DUI and DUID investigations. He's been doing this for quite a while. And he's made approximately 750 to 850 DUI and DUID arrests. That's about how the DRE program has been around since the 1980s. It's a nationwide program. Okay? It's used across the country. He can reliably determine if someone is under the influence of a drug. He can reliably determine a particular drug category causing impairment. He has extensive knowledge relating to drugs and their effects. Again, how do we know that he can reliably determine if somebody's under the influence of a drug and the drug categories? He has to stay certified. Okay, he has to keep that correct arrest ratio. I just got out of order here, so we'll start at the top. So starting with lack of convergence is one thing that he noticed. I believe Officer Hume noticed a lack of convergence too. And they both stated that the lack of convergence is correlated with impairment, okay, by marijuana. He noted slightly dilated pupils. Okay, he didn't say that her pupils were completely blown out. No, he just said they were slightly dilated, and something based on his training and experience he picked up on. He appeared lethargic. She smelled the burnt cannabis. Note on this, Officer Hume said that he smelled a strong odor of burnt cannabis, while Biaggi said that he smelled a faint odor. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, minor inconsistencies are a hallmark of credibility in these cases. Because if you think about it, we're all different. We all have different experience levels. We're all going to interpret some things differently. Okay? He began the DRE examination. Now we're in the controlled environment. Okay, so we're back at the jail. The controlled environment included things like consistent temperature, consistent lighting. These are all important in the drug recognition evaluation because you want to start accounting for some of those variables that you can't account for out in the field where the FSTs were done. So the defendant did the defendant began the modified Romberg. Her internal clock was checked, and frankly, her internal clock was okay. It was within acceptable ranges. However, you begin to see the eyelid and body tremors. During the walk and turn, she steps off the line, she misheeled the toe. Again, she becomes slow and lethargic. She starts to exhibit poor fine motor skills. Okay? Those fine motor skills are things like having to apply brakes, having to make correct turns while driving a car. Think back to that video. How did the defendant apply her brakes that day? No, she actually sped up rapidly from a red light and then applied her brakes pretty hard, causing the car behind her to have to brake quickly as well. She actually made a pretty tight turn. Whether or not she went over the curb, it was close. But what's clear is it was a tight, fast turn. She also turned around and she made the wrong turn. She also made the wrong turn during the FSTs in the field. Here she took 8 steps instead of 9. Again, she's having issues following directions. This is now the second time she'd done the walk and turn. Her one-leg stand, Officer Hume said, hey, she did okay on that. But what he did pick up on again was the body tremors and the sway, right? There's the fine motor issues again on the finger to